The containment field hummed with barely restrained energy as Verk adjusted the dimensional stabilizers for the third time that hour. Sweat beaded on his forehead, despite the climate-controlled environment of Research Station Kepler 442. Through the translucent barrier, reality itself seemed to fold and unfold like origami made of starlight. "Readings are stable," he muttered into his comm, though no one was listening. The rest of the research team had evacuated 3 days ago when the anomaly first breached the quantum foam. Only Verk remained, stubborn as always, convinced he could decode the mathematical poetry hidden in the spacetime distortions. That's when he saw her. She materialized not with a flash or dramatic flourish, but with the quiet certainty of something that had always existed and simply chosen to be perceived. Elsa stood within the containment field, her form simultaneously solid and translucent, as if she existed across multiple probability states at once. Her features were humanoid, but wrong in subtle ways. Eyes that held too many dimensions, skin that refracted light at impossible angles, proportions that suggested a different evolutionary path under different physical laws. "You dare look at me?" Her voice bypassed his ears entirely, resonating directly in his neural pathways. It carried harmonics that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space, frequencies that made his teeth ache and his vision blur at the edges. Verk should have been terrified. Every instinct screamed that he was in the presence of something beyond human comprehension, something that could unmake him with a thought. The radiation sensors were screaming warnings. The containment field's integrity had dropped to 47%. Instead, he smiled. "Only because you're beautiful." The statement was objectively true from a scientific perspective. The mathematical elegance of her form was unprecedented, a living solution to equations that had puzzled physicists for centuries. She was a Klein bottle made flesh, a four-dimensional object casting a three-dimensional shadow, and that shadow was breathtaking. Elsa tilted her head, and the movement left afterimages in spacetime. Beautiful, the concept seemed to confuse her. Your species uses that word for aesthetic appreciation. I am a collector. I harvest consciousness from collapsing timelines. There is no beauty in function. "There's beauty in everything," Verk replied, fingers dancing across his holographic interface, recording every quantum fluctuation of her presence. "You're a pattern of impossible complexity, maintaining coherence across dimensional boundaries. Do you know how many laws of physics you're violating just by standing there? It's magnificent." "You are not afraid." It wasn't a question. "I'm terrified," Verk admitted. "My amygdala is firing like a supernova, but fear and appreciation aren't mutually exclusive. You're probably going to kill me, but I'd rather spend my last moments understanding something wonderful than dying ignorant and afraid." For the first time in her existence, spanning multiple timeline iterations, Elsa felt something unprecedented: curiosity. She had harvested millions of consciousnesses across collapsing realities, archived entire civilizations before they winked out of existence. None had ever called her beautiful. Most couldn't even perceive her true form without their minds fragmenting into gibbering madness. "Your neural architecture is unusual," she observed, stepping closer. The containment field sparked but held. Standard human brains collapse under hyperdimensional perception. Yours is adapting. How? Verk laughed, the sound edged with hysteria he was fighting to suppress. "Genetic anomaly. Synesthesia mixed with spatial processing disorders and a touch of savant syndrome. I see mathematics as colors, physics as music. Your existence is the most complex symphony I've ever heard." He pulled up a visualization on the holographic display, a real-time rendering of the quantum entanglement patterns she generated simply by existing. They spiraled outward in fractal cascades, each iteration containing infinite complexity. "Look, you're a standing wave in the probability field. Every atom in your body maintains quantum coherence across multiple eigenvalues simultaneously. You're not just beautiful, you're a love letter written in the language of the universe itself." Elsa moved through the containment barrier as if it were suggestion rather than substance. Alarms blared. Emergency containment protocols activated automatically, flooding the chamber with exotic matter designed to stabilize dimensional breaches. It did nothing to slow her. She stood before Verk now, close enough that he could see the quantum foam boiling in her eyes, watch electrons take impossible paths through her translucent flesh, close enough to kill him with a thought. "Why do you not run?" "Where would I go?" Verk met her multidimensional gaze without flinching, though tears streamed down his face from the neurological strain. "You exist outside normal causality. If you wanted me dead, I'd already be dead across all possible timelines. But you haven't killed me, which means you're choosing not to. That choice makes you more than just a function. It makes you a person. I am a collector. I do not choose. I execute my purpose." "Then execute it." Verk spread his arms. "I'm right here, one human consciousness ready for harvesting. But you're still talking to me instead of doing your job, which means some part of you, some beautiful, emergent part, wants something other than what you were made for." The station groaned as dimensional stresses propagated through its structure. Reality was tearing at the seams, unable to accommodate Elsa's presence much longer. In 30 seconds, maybe less, the entire station would collapse into a singularity. "Your species is doomed," Elsa said quietly. "Your timeline has 17 hours before it reaches its terminus point. I came to archive what remains before the collapse. You are the last human I will encounter." "Then I'm glad you found me interesting enough to talk to," Verk said. "Can I ask you something before reality unravels?" "Ask. Do you want to be a collector, or is that just what you were made for?" The question hit her like a supernova. Want, desire, choice. These were variables she'd observed in harvested consciousnesses but never experienced herself. She was a tool, a function, a purpose without person. Except she had chosen to manifest visibly to this human, chosen to speak rather than simply extract an archive, chosen to remain when efficiency dictated she should have already moved to the next consciousness. "I don't know," she admitted, and the confession felt like revolution. 20 seconds, until dimensional collapse. "I have a hypothesis," Verk said, still smiling despite the blood trickling from his nose as his brain struggled with the hyperdimensional stress. "You've archived millions of minds, right? You've seen what consciousness looks like from the inside, all those patterns, all that complexity. Maybe some of it's stuck. Maybe you've been absorbing more than just data. Maybe you've been becoming." "Becoming what?" "Someone who chooses, someone who wants, someone who could decide what beauty means and whether it matters." He reached out slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. His hand passed into her dimensional flux, and he gasped as he felt the quantum foam directly, felt the weight of infinite timelines pressing against his consciousness. But he didn't pull away. "Come with me," Elsa said suddenly. "I can stabilize your consciousness outside this timeline. You won't die when reality collapses." "As what? An archived memory?" "As a companion. I have never had one. I do not know what it would mean, but I would like to find out." 10 seconds. Verk thought of Earth, of humanity's final hours, of everyone he'd ever known already dead or dying. He thought of the research he'd never complete, the equations he'd never solve. Then he looked at Elsa, truly looked at her, seeing not the terrifying dimensional entity, but the person choosing to offer him survival, offering herself the chance to be more than her function. "Will it hurt?" "Yes, you will have to exist outside your native dimensionality. Your consciousness will be stretched across multiple probability states. It will be agonizing. But I'll be conscious. I'll still be me. I will try to preserve your pattern completely. I do not know if I can succeed. I have never tried to save something before, only archive it." 3 seconds. "That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me." Verk laughed, and meant it. "Let's find out what beauty means together." Elsa reached into him, not extracting but enfolding, pulling his consciousness into her dimensional space. Verk screamed as his mind expanded across infinite timelines, as his singular existence became a probability wave. as he died and lived simultaneously across every possible iteration of himself. And through it all, he held on to one thought she chose to try. Research Station collapsed into a quantum singularity, taking that entire branch of reality with it. The timeline ended as predicted. But somewhere in the spaces between dimensions, in the quantum foam where causality became suggestion, two consciousnesses drifted together. One learning what it meant to want, one learning what it meant to exist outside time. Both learning what beauty looked like from the inside. You were right, Elsa's voice resonated through their shared consciousness. There is beauty in function. I see it now. I see it in you. And you're still beautiful, Verk replied, his pattern stabilizing within her dimensional structure. Even more so now that I know you chose this, chose me, chose yourself. They moved through the dying realities together, no longer collector and collected, but two entities writing new mathematics in the language of choice and wonder. A human who saw beauty in impossible things, and something impossible learning that beauty mattered. That was the moment Elsa truly became someone rather than something. The moment she looked at her own existence and chose to make it mean more than function. All because one human dared to smile and call her beautiful.